Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. Okay, bear with me here. I have a couple things at the top. In the coming days, the President and First Lady will travel to New Orleans, Louisiana.
From the moment Karine Jean-Pierre took her place at the White House podium, she symbolized possibility as the first Black openly gay press secretary. But as her tenure ended, discussions about her performance and whispers of an insider plot to force her out emerged. For over a year, she entered the briefing room daily with a binder explaining President Biden's agenda. Yet her reliance on prepared notes and scripted responses frustrated journalists who sought spontaneity. Despite White House claims of her commitment, rumors suggested aides were nudging her towards the exit as the re-election campaign approached, fueled by overtures from Emily's List and speculation around John Kirby as her successor. Surprisingly, she remained, receiving a promotion to senior advisor. When the Biden era ended, her farewell remarks were overshadowed by lingering doubts about her performance. Join us in exploring how her last message became a spectacle perceived by some as laughably bad. The road to the final briefing. It's difficult to discuss Karine Jean-Pierre's final days as White House press secretary without first acknowledging her unconventional rise to prominence. Long before she stood at the podium in Washington, D.C., she was volunteering as a firefighter in Hempstead, New York, stepping outside societal expectations and embracing challenges most might find daunting. This resilient streak carried her far in the realm of political communications, culminating in her big break, serving as deputy under Jen Psaki before taking the top post in May 2022. But from the moment she ascended to press secretary, tensions began to simmer. Insiders describe a pattern of frustration among White House officials, particularly those charged with shaping the administration's public image. Despite her colorful presence and warm smile, Jean-Pierre quickly developed a reputation for reading aloud prepared answers from a voluminous binder. To some, the binder was a necessary briefing tool. To others, it was a crutch that signaled she lacked command of the issues. Critics within the White House bristled when they saw her tilt her head down to reference text for nearly every question, warning that President Biden's policy goals needed a more agile and assertive spokesperson. Enter Anita Dunn, the powerful strategist often dubbed the administration's de facto communications chief. According to sources, Dunn orchestrated what amounted to a gentle coup to nudge Jean-Pierre out of the role. She allegedly tapped influential Democrats, people Jean-Pierre knew and trusted, to help persuade her that leaving at the right time might be beneficial for both her career and the White House. White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients was said to be aware of and supportive of the maneuver. The rationale was simple. A press secretary's typical tenure rarely extends beyond a year and a half, and she had hit that mark. Yet the push to replace Jean-Pierre collided with another sensitive dimension, her identity. Removing or publicly demoting the first Black openly gay press secretary risked creating terrible optics for an administration keen to highlight diversity. Unable to simply remove her without backlash, critics sought to orchestrate a graceful exit. An unsolicited job offer from Emily's List, a powerhouse in progressive politics, seemed like an opportune way out. But Jean-Pierre rebuffed the possibility. She was determined to stay. By late 2023, the White House was abuzz with the notion that Jean-Pierre might remain until the end of President Biden's term. But the concerns about her communications style lingered. While she was known for her calm demeanor and for championing progressive causes, behind closed doors, senior officials expressed doubt about her policy depth and quick-thinking abilities. Tensions in team dynamics. An especially telling subplot of her White House experience involved National Security Council spokesman John Kirby, a seasoned communicator with multiple stints as Pentagon press secretary. Kirby brought to the briefing room a contrasting style, fluid, candid, and comfortable with spur-of-the-moment exchanges. Sources reported serious tensions between Kirby and Jean-Pierre, especially when Kirby insisted on selecting which reporters would direct questions to him. Jean-Pierre, protective of her role, resisted granting him that freedom. Observers in the press room noticed subtle awkwardness whenever they shared the podium, with Jean-Pierre determined to maintain control. One insider famously claimed, "Sometimes he talks to her and she acts as if he's not talking." Another described her as pretty aggressive about marking her territory. Meanwhile, the daily back and forth in briefings fueled ongoing debates about her mastery of policy. Journalists reported instances where she appeared unsure or spent uncomfortable moments leafing through her binder to answer questions about sensitive foreign policy or domestic matters. Critics contrasted this with Jen Psaki, whose approach, though aided also by note cards and briefing materials, was more conversational. Even more tellingly, many in the administration believed John Kirby's approach better suited to the real-time demands of the job. Adding a swirl of intrigue was her personal approach as profiled in various media outlets. She'd rise early, sometimes around 4:45 a.m., to meditate by her window, repeating her daily mantra of gratitude and focus. She also found time for running, an exercise habit that dated back to her high school cross-country days. By her own account, she poured 4 hours of preparation into each briefing, determined to show that she was well-versed in policy nuances. Still, the clash of narratives was stark. On one hand, White House insiders like Andrew Bates insisted Jean-Pierre was an incredibly quick study. On the other, staffers anonymously criticized her alleged reluctance to dive deeper into briefing materials, claiming she, quote, doesn't spend the time to learn the complexities of issues. The promotion and final message.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay.
Thank you, Karine. Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you.
You're not leaving us in the briefing room, are you?
Unless you want me to. Do you want me to?
No, sure don't.
All right, okay.
When news broke that President Biden had promoted Karine Jean-Pierre to the role of senior advisor, paralleling lofty titles once held by presidential confidants like Jared Kushner, Karl Rove, and David Axelrod, the political world did a double-take. Those who admired her championed the move as a recognition of her dedication, while skeptics saw it as a hollow gesture. She would still earn the same $180,000 salary, still stand at the press secretary's podium, and still field questions. Some White House veterans dismissed the title as meaningless, suggesting it was a last-minute attempt to pad her resume before the administration wrapped up. Yet if Dunn and Zentz had once been keen on replacing her, now they seemed eager to laud her publicly. But it was the day of her last press briefing that gave rise to the phrase laughably bad. In her final address, Jean-Pierre attempted to celebrate the best team in the business, praising the staff she claimed had carried her through daily press battles. She gushed about the camaraderie, echoing a social media post that likened her White House team to the best of professional baseball, even if, in the eyes of critics, they were on track for a losing season. Whether out of sincerity or obliviousness, her upbeat tribute to the staff came across as tone-deaf to those who had watched her struggle to defend controversial policies and navigate internal friction. Reporters in the room exchanged glances, as if trying to confirm was she aware of the swirling controversies that had dogged her tenure. At one point, she repeated a line she'd used before, something about the president's energy and how staffers could barely keep up. It drew visible smirks from a few correspondents who recalled past quips about the president's stamina and slip-ups. To round it out, she slipped seamlessly back into binder mode, reciting a flurry of policy achievements as if ticking off bullet points one last time. The result was a speech that felt less like a thoughtful, introspective goodbye and more like a highlight reel read straight from a script, leaving many watchers stunned that this, after all the drama, was how she would bow out. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think you could take on the job of press secretary? Let us know in the comments section below.